biggest, best thing you can do for yourself is ask for mentorship. Have as many mentors as you can, because those are the people who've done it. So basically, in when you're working in a company, I think there's a lot of value in staying in one place for a long time. In our generation, and especially in media, people tend to jump from place to place and jump for a better title, a little bit more money. But what I did notice is that once you find a place that is a good fit for you, then just having been there for a long time is really, really valuable, because you can impact the company differently. You have recognition within the company, so you know what's going on. And it's just a lot of value in that, for you and for the company.
I know that, like, when I sort of first met you, instantly I knew you're like really sort of into the company. Like, you're setting up different events, you're volunteering, you're like the first person to put your hands up. I'm like, yes, I'll organize a picnic. Is that something you're still doing? Has that changed? Because that was really a good trait of it. You're like the organizer.
Yeah. My boss's boss calls me the Chief Entertainment Officer. So I do that for my clients. I also do that internally. So I'm the person in my team who is taking care of the fun activities. We have a culture force that organizes things for the company. I'm not a big driver on that team, but I'm also helping out there. And one thing that I started doing, actually, and this is new since we last spoke, but I started an industry debate club.
Tell me more about that. And I think I remember you said you were able to like get some pretty interesting people there, or you got like people high up within the company to do it or something.
So there is an industry organization, and I was getting mentorship through that industry organization. And I had the conversations with my mentor, and off the back of that, I started a debate club. And then she helped me, and she introduced me to a bunch of people. And then the organization that it happened through, they were very supportive as well. So yes, I ended up talking to a lot of people that I normally wouldn't really talk to in the everyday life, just because they're in a company that I wouldn't be dealing with, or because they're not my level. So it's quite it definitely got me and is getting me out of my comfort zone. So the first one was in just before lockdown, and we're going to have another one in July, but then July, obviously the lockdown happened, and I didn't want to do a virtual one because there were so many virtual events going on. And the whole idea was to get everyone together, do something educational, but then also just go to the pub and network and connect. So I'm organizing the next one now, which I'm very excited about. It's going to be the 2nd of December. You should come along. And it's going to be about NFTs, speaking of.
Oh, wow. And tell me about the first one before lockdown. How did that go? How does it work? Do you just talk about different industry? Do you talk about one topic? Is it like everyone's debating? Is it split into 2 teams?
So we have 2 teams and a judging panel, and everyone else can just come and watch. We didn't have a ton of people. There was also a bunch of different events going on at the same time as well. So that was a good learning to check that if the date clashes with anything before locking something in. But it went really, really well. It was a really good pilot event, just to figure out the timings of everything and just kind of understanding how to do stuff. Just, thinking about how to come up with a debate topic and when to start putting out the dates and the feelers. The structure is like a proper structured uni debate. So there's 2 teams. I had the judging panel on my side, and I was the moderator. And then each team has an opening opportunity, then they have rebuttal, or they have a couple of rounds, and then they have to get ready for the rebuttals. They have a couple of rounds of rebuttals, and it's all timed. And then they both have a closing sentence or closing speech, and then the judges confirm who is the winner. But what I'm going to do for the next one differently, that I'm also going to add a part when people can ask them questions, and then everyone goes to the pub.
And then how many people are in each team?
It can be up to 5. Last time it was 2 and 2. I think this time around, just because the debate is so topical, we will be able to have 5. But last time was a bit, I think everyone was a bit shy. So I was just getting people and asking people to do it. But now I also know who are the people who are happy to jump in and do a debate. And I think the topic is going to be something that a lot of people are quite invested in as well.
Interesting. And the 2 people or the 4 people in total that were there, did they have to pre-plan their arguments?
Yeah, so when you sign up, you can sign up either as a debater or as an audience. And so you would know who your team is, and you would also know how and what to prepare.
Got it. And talking about that, how has the people you surround yourself, your network, and network has this weird connotation when I say network, but how has your network grown over the last year since we've talked? Because I know that you've always been sociable, but I could tell like it's growing really fast. You're always like, I think over the last few months, I've noticed your circle has grown into many different patches, whether it's like through the breathing, the sort of Wim Hof, that type of group, or like the Coogee scene. How has your network grown? Yeah.
I guess it's just talking to people.
Have you been meeting a lot of new people over the last year? Do you think it's just like when like...
I have. Just moving to a new area was obviously a big driver of that. And Coogee is very much like a little village, and people do look for local people in the area. I met one of my friends that you met this weekend as well, Jess, and then she introduced me to a bunch of people. I went to an exercise group, so I met a bunch of people through the exercise group. So it all just naturally happens.
I was going to ask, and how has your time and schedule, because I know the last time we talked, you're like booked out sometimes the next 8 weekends.
Very good question. Very good question. It's one of the big learnings for me this year was taking pressure off of things. So my schedule was absolutely mental, as you said. And I got like that with everything, my diet, my exercise, my schedule. And I think these things, when you're controlling things, it's good to control them on a short term until you learn how to manage it. But with me and the schedule and the diet and the exercise, it just got, every one of those things got into a point when it was detrimental what I was trying to achieve with it. Actually, the second lockdown that we just been through really made me realize how much value is that just being spontaneous. I have been spontaneous before, but I had to plan to be spontaneous. You know, it was like, oh, we're going to go do a day trip, but we don't really plan what we're going to do in that day trip. But I knew I was going to go somewhere. And a couple of weeks ago, we just had this day when I just went down to the beach, met one of my friends. Then I ended up meeting some other friends, and then we went up to the hill and then ran into everyone on the hill. And I didn't really have experiences like this before. Not before, but like since I've been having such a busy schedule, and I haven't really prioritized. I was a bit of a yes girl. saying yes to everything. And then if I say yes, I will turn up because I'm the kind of person who turns up. And I realized that it's taken over my life in a way. So I did take a step back and stopped locking myself into everything. I do still make plans, but I try to keep some free time for myself, some free time to do spontaneous things. And in the end of the day, you're still going to have a good time, whatever happens. You know, it's not that and I think maybe everyone's changed this a little bit, because back in that time when I was fully scheduled, many of my friends were fully scheduled. So if I had a weekend when I didn't really do much, I would probably, if I messaged anyone, they'd be like, oh, I'm here, I'm there. But I think now it's a little bit different. And, you know, if I don't plan something, there's still going to be a good day. And if no one's available, then I can still have a good day by myself.
I remember there was like this phase where I was just planning things out for like the next 4 weekends. And the people I was sort of talking to, they were just really spontaneous. Like they didn't plan things far out. They didn't want to lock something 4 weeks later. And then strangely, when I sort of stopped doing that and I was just like not planning more than a week ahead of time, everyone's booked out. I'm like, hey, do you want to do something this weekend? And everyone had something planned. I was like, what's happening? But I realized during lockdown, when like you couldn't go out, I was able to find this amazing balance, peace, consistency, got work done every day. And then I was worried to what would happen after lockdown. And now that lockdown's over, I do feel like I'm getting pulled in many different directions. Like I remember during lockdown, I was working, but then the bad thing was during lockdown, I was like working 7 days a week, and I got sort of like exhausted, where when I got my nose surgery, I was just happy to have 1 week off. I was like, I can't wait to just have 1 week off. And now the next week it's like booked out, and I'm like, I can't even do things I want to do. Even though I sort of finished the day early, it feels like I'm going to have to start being like, okay, 4 weeks from now, I just want to block off that week. But then it's hard to do it ahead of time. I don't have the power to block off the next week because my calendar is always going to be open 5 days rolling. So I'm going to always have to block 2 weeks ahead of time. But that's a bit difficult because you don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time. What's your thoughts?
I think when you block time off, it's still structuring it. And the more you're trying to structure it in advance, the more you're still putting pressure on it. And I think, and that's the thing, like you can do things like this short term just to get yourself into the habit of not doing something all the time. And on the long term, it's just going to help you understand when to push, when to pull, and I think just learning to say no to things. Because maybe you blocking out that 4 days is going to help you learn to say no to things. And then in a couple of weeks, months time, you don't have to block it anymore because you're just going to be in the habit of like, I'm actually going to cancel. I'm actually going to not turn up. And it's very much the same concept as I went through with the diet and exercise, when I was tracking everything that I'm eating through my MyFitnessPal, counting calories, counting macros. And it was just so rigid. But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't now know that, how much is a normal amount of food. And you can go over and under, but now you have your bearings. Same with exercise. I was checking my heart rate every time, and then I just got obsessed with it and I didn't enjoy exercise anymore. But now that I know what I need to do to get my heart rate up, I don't have to check my heart rate after every single exercise. But I just know, focus on cardio, don't stop, put a cardio into every rotation, and it's going to be fine. And that's the same with your schedule. Like you have to be a bit rigid introducing certain things on the short term. And when you learn it and when you get your bearings, then you can just let it happen as it is.
Interesting. On your calendar, are your co-workers able to book in times on your calendar? And for example, for me, I have like a 5-day rolling where people are interested in my service. They can sort of book in on call with me and go through a discovery session. So all of a sudden, over the next 5 days, I might have 3 bookings on one day, but I might have 1 booking next Thursday. And all of a sudden with that 1 booking on Thursday, now Thursday's like, it's a bit ambiguous. I have 1 booking that's sort of ruining the whole day. Not really, but it's sort of like, okay, I have to now work on Thursday. And I think there's either 2 things I could do. I want to get your thoughts. Option 1 is maybe I could just like block off more days out of my week. Right now, like I have 5 days open, Wednesday to Sunday, where people can book in calls. So option 1 is to block off maybe 2 out of the 5 days.
I think it depends on how you like doing your work. So I personally like to have 1 day when I bash out all my work, all my internal calls. And then the rest of the time it's add and remove, but then the rest of the time I have more flexibility. So that's why I booked all of my internal calls and meetings on Thursday morning. They're all one after another. So my Thursdays look absolutely horrid, but then that means that in the other days I have space. What I would do for you, just think about like, what do you prefer? Do you prefer to space those out, or do you prefer to just have it all in one go? And when you have other people having access to scheduling calls with you, you can specify the times. I'm not sure. You can create bookable calendar slots on Google, rather than just having someone have full access to your calendar and just book it whenever. So you could put, and if you don't want to have more than 2 calls a day, then just put 2 slots in for every day.
Yeah. That's a good idea, because I think I'm looking at my calendar right now. It's open from 10:30 to 5 p.m. So it's like sort of like, and then I have lunch in between. So it's like this sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. So there's like 5 possible calls. So I have 2 options: either somehow cram 10 hours into 2 days and just block out the rest, or split the 5 days evenly throughout the week.
Yeah.
I think,
and reverse it to, rather than all the time that is not blocked is available, I would reverse it and specify the meeting slots that are, this is what you can book in. I think there's booking softwares as well where you can do that. And you can also just, I'm not sure what how it works, but if you work with a software, I think they definitely would have an option to say, all right, I've got these 5 slots in a day, but don't book more than 2 a day.
Sort of talking to you and figure out what I want. I think what I'm wanting is the ability to wake up and be like, hey, I don't want to work today. Or knowing I'm exhausted today and be like, hey, I don't want to work tomorrow. But it's nearly impossible to sort of do that when your calendar's open for the next 5 days, because then you'll have things booked in 5 days from 5 days ago. Any thoughts on that? Or like, that's something I'm going to start thinking of thanks to this conversation.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. What we're really talking about is how to own your time, right?
Yeah.
It's something that most people don't really think about or plan. I think if that's what you want to do, I would be going down the bash out all the meetings in one day route, because that means if all of your meetings is on Thursday, then Thursday is the only day when you can't afford to wake up and not have those calls. But all the rest of the week, or like 2 days, but it's going to give you the flexibility for the rest of the time.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to figure out, because Mondays is like all internal meetings. Tuesday all content, batch like a lot of filming content. And then the rest of the day, like rest of the week, I have all the sales calls and stuff. But I guess I could bash it into one day. So just be 3 really intense days for the week and I'll be done. But obviously the ideal situation is for me to get back to the point where I had the sales team. So I think I'm only in this situation because I'm rebuilding the whole sales process. It was all automated, but jumping back in, the numbers that I'm able to pull out personally is like 4x what other people could do. So like literally we had 4 salespeople and I'm bringing in more money than the 4 salespeople combined. I think it's probably my fault because I just didn't build a rigid enough process for them. It was unfair for me to expect salespeople to improve on their own, figure out ways to increase show-up rates on their own, as well as optimize their day-to-day process on their own. And I also brought in like a sales manager that probably doesn't have enough experience to build out the whole sales process. Yes, he's really good at sales personally. Yes, he's pretty good at training, but building the whole sales process himself, I think that's something I shouldn't have passed on to him. But I think I was just in a phase I just wanted to scale as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think it's important to have the right people that you can delegate to, because that's the other thing. Like, do you really have to be on all the sales calls and all the internal calls? Because if you can have someone who works for you who can own those things, that's what's gonna free you up.
Very, very true. I think the last part I need to automate is like the content. Content it feels really hard to automate. I went from creating content based on what people wanted to creating content that I wanted. Also, for example, so the first phase was like, okay, people want to learn about drop shipping. They want to learn how to make money online. They want to learn how to run Facebook ads. But after I filmed 500 videos on that topic, I'm pretty bored of those topics, but people still want it. So it wasn't working for me. I was just getting burnt out. So I moved to creating content that I wanted, doing like sort of book reviews, talking about mindset, talking about personal growth, and the views just plummeted. But now I was sort of filming things that I enjoyed and I was just documenting the new things I learned. So I'd read a book, I'll underline all the cool things. After I finished the book, put all the things I underlined into a PowerPoint, split it up into like 5 different topics and talk about these 5 different topics on things I learned. So I've read the book, I've sort of put it into presentation, I've done a video about it. So I've really locked in all these important sort of golden nuggets from these books. And that's sort of how I really retain knowledge. And that was sort of phase 2. Phase 3 is I might just like do interviews and get my team to chop it up into many topics. So right now I'm getting deep into NFTs, crypto, and that's a really hot topic that is probably going to get a lot of views on YouTube. So I'm just going to interview people on that topic. 1, I get to learn things I didn't know. 2, solidify the knowledge of what this next chapter in the world is going to be about. And 3, create a lot of content through an easy content creating mechanism. So that's sort of the next content idea or path I'm going to try out, and we'll see if it works.
The way I would look at it is that because you're taking people on a journey, right? And what happens is that there's only so much you can talk about what you're teaching them, because you yourself got into a point with e-commerce when you're like, well, I've done it. I've grown as far as I can grow with this. So what's the next thing for me? And I think that's why when you run out of covering those topics, that's when you know that your audience has probably hit the ceiling with it too. So what was the next step for you? I mean, absolutely the topics of NFT or hot topics that everyone is talking about at the moment. But I think it would be interesting for you to also cover, okay, what are you going to do when you hit the ceiling with dropshipping? Because obviously those people who are following you along the journey are going to go through the same journey.
Another thing I've been thinking, this is something I just got from listening to a podcast, and I haven't listened to podcasts in a long time just because I've been trying to reduce the amount of content I consume, but I see the value from it because of the idea I generated. Like I was thinking, how do I give value to my audience? Like if I wanted to give 10 passes, and if you hold that pass, you get access to me. Yes, I could sort of just give it to the highest bidder, but that doesn't feel sustainable. Like my audience isn't like this unlimited money audience I can keep churning from. And that's what everyone else is doing. And it feels like a cash grab. I was like, what if I can sort of reward people for working somehow? Because cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, you're rewarded Bitcoin for doing proof of work. So if you have a computer, you sort of figure out how to do the transactions, you get paid when Orsi sends one Bitcoin to Andy. The person that runs the computer, he gets paid for doing the work, because it's like a selfish world where you want to create a capitalistic setup where everyone gets paid for doing something. And that's why Bitcoin works really well. So I was like, what if I create a thing where I give 10 token passes to the top 10 viewers of my channel? What if I create a website where people can watch all my YouTube videos, and the people who have the most minutes, the top 10 people, they get a token where it's like a pass to join Andy's weekly mastermind. And then these pass are resellable, where like they can sell it to other people. And I could set a smart contract where I get 10% commission every time it's resold. So yes, it's free on the front end, not really because I'm getting views, but at the same time, I'm getting royalties when it gets resold.
Yeah. What I was thinking when you were talking about the exchange of things, what my association was that what if you could get, rather than looking at how much time they're spending on looking at your content, but what if you would get them to give you some kind of value? So you could be like, this is a challenge I'm facing. Whoever is giving me the most creative idea to solve this challenge, I would love to give my time and my advice to in exchange. And I think then you would get people who are quite altruistic with their time and energy and thoughts. And you could create a synergy where it's an idea exchange.
Yeah, because I really think the next chapter we're going into is people sort of doing the work to get free access. So right now you're seeing people get paid to play games, not like esports. Like there's these crypto games where you play the game and you earn these NFTs that are worth money. And people make like 10 grand a month doing that, or 6 grand a month. It's crazy. And I think there's like this sort of video platform. It's similar to Netflix, but you pay for every minute you watch. And then you're paying the people who host all the videos. There's a cloud service where you pay to store every gigabyte you store on the cloud, and you're paying to the people who are offering their sort of hard drives up to the cloud. So that's sort of where we're sort of moving to, where you're paying the individuals rather than paying the corporation.
Yeah.
But
the payment doesn't have to be money. It can be an exchange of
time,
value, and that value can be time, or that could be your expertise on something. Correct.
And then now I need to figure out, what do I value? Do I value a 30-minute conversation about NFTs if I can already talk to a bunch of NFT experts? Or do I value people watching and supporting the channel? Or do I value people liking my videos or something? I need to figure out what I value. And because I remember when I was young, I used to be like, I wish I could just like somehow show that I'm the biggest supporter of this person and it will give me a free ticket to his concert. Because I don't have $50 to pay for his concert. Can I show that I liked every single of his posts can I show that I was an OG supporter and get a free ticket concert? I think that's sort of what I want to figure out.
That's a conversation that you'll have to have when I make an introduction for you.
Most definitely. How's everything else, Orsi? How's the breathing, the Wim Hof? You've been getting really into that. You've been doing different. Do you do spin as well? The spin
No,
cycling? Okay, cool.
no, I just Caitlin does my housemate.
Got it.
A lot of the girls that I met through her, they're met through spin. I did actually a breathing workshop through work. It was a 10.5 hour workshop over 3 days. And it was very, very intense. I really enjoyed it. I definitely would like to get into it more. I think there's a lot to it. I really would love to get into biohacking and how can you manipulate your body and build longevity through things like that.
When I think of breathing, I think right now, based on what I'm gathering and talking to people, I feel like there's 3 categories, and I'd love for you I want to get your thoughts on it. Category 1 is just breathing for meditative purposes, clearing your mind, getting focused, getting present. Phase 2 is breathing to unlock the ability to stay in cold water, the ability to do hard, difficult things just through breathing technique. And then phase 3 is part 3 is breathing for this high. I remember my friend brought me through this breathing thing, it was somebody do to getting all the oxygen out of your body or something. And then after all the oxygen's out, you breathe in oxygen and then you get this rush. And it felt I've done those nangs, those whipped cream canisters. It felt exactly like that. I was this is it felt a bit scary. I was is our brain cells currently dying or something? And then I've seen people talk about doing that. Is that what breathing's about? Those 3 different categories?
I don't know enough to say or talk about it as I was an expert, but I do think that those kind of are the areas. When I was doing the workshop, I did notice, and I did also breathing and then cold shower, and I noticed the same thing, that everything around me was just sharper, the colors popped more. I definitely think that there's that kind of aspect to it. And there's just so much that the quality of your breath is, everything that is going in and out of your body is what builds your body. And the oxygen that you breathe in is what is feeding your cells, I guess. So I'm probably not the best person to talk about it because I don't know the exact ways how it works. I just know that it's really beneficial for health reasons to practice breath work and pay attention to the quality of your breath.
Tell me, do you still do those morning swims? That's pretty interesting. I remember you doing those morning swims in the winter when it was really cold.
Yeah, that was a lockdown thing. Everyone in Coogee was into it, actually. We were just watching the sunrise every morning. It was just a thing to do. And it was quite nice. It was quite a mild winter, so it was nice to go for a little dip and get refreshed.
I remember, I think I was trying to reset my life. So I wanted to do 3 uncomfortable things. And one of the uncomfortable things was swim in cold water for 30 minutes. And I think I was either at Coogee or Bondi, and it was on those outdoor pools. And it was I jumped in, it was freezing cold. Usually after 2-3 laps, you warmed up, but it was just so cold that it just did not feel warm that whole 30 minute. It was just all mindset. Got out and I was just shivering. I was shivering for the next 30 minutes. It felt like I was cold in my bones. Either I didn't do it proper breathing or something, but I was happy I did it because I just pushed through mindset, and it really helped me with just solidifying my mindset, I guess. But it was painful.
Yeah, it's with the breathing, it actually becomes a lot less painful. But what I noticed as well, just going into the water every morning, I feel like there's a lot of things that affect you. I think for women, it's hormones as well throughout the months. I don't know what those exact things are, but one day you're just a lot more fragile than another day. One day you just walk in and it's like nothing, and another day it just feels really cold.
I've been doing cold showers at home, and I've noticed like what I've been working on right now is trying to like clock the fear that's gone through my mind. And when you clock it, it's so much easier because you're getting used to that sort of human like hey, let's turn on the cold warm shower. Like you did it, you had a solid workout. Let's just reward yourself with the warm shower. Let's not shower because you feel like all these things like saying, and then I'm clocking it. So that's sort of what I've been working on, because I remember for the longest time I used to fight the cold shower. I used to just rush in, just get it over and done with, try to pump myself up. But now I'm trying to clock the pain, embrace it, embrace me feeling really cold. And I think the next part, after I get really good at this part, is to learn to like love it.
I think with us and the swimming, what was good that once you're in and you got used to the water, it's so nice. Because you look around you and the ocean's there, the beach is beautiful, the sky is beautiful because it's still sunrise, and you just sort of, it's just such a good place to be in. So when you start associating that morning swim with that great feeling, then even when you feel like, oh, I don't want to go in, you know that in 5 minutes you're going to have the best time of your life. And I think with the cold shower, that's the difficulty, because you don't have that experience around it. But you do have that feeling when your body just feels so awake and so just that great feeling of everything's refreshed and good. So I think that's kind of what, if you want to lock in that positive feeling that's associated with that, is what will help.
Afterwards, like I always feel like really happy afterwards. Like I never regret it. And it saves me so much time, because like when I do a warm shower, I might be there for like 10, 15 minutes, but the cold shower is only like 60 seconds. So it's like really time efficient, I guess, in the morning. But yeah, it's really cool seeing a lot more people figuring out, just getting out their comfort zone. I think that's another thing I noticed in your circle, Orsi. Everyone wants to get out of their comfort zone. Everyone's trying to try different things, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think our generation is really driven by that.
I'm really excited for like right now, everyone that's like having kids, like now, it's like this new generation of parents. Like I saw, like I have a friend, she has a son, and her son is like 7 years old, and she's like a cool mom. Like she goes to the club, she goes partying, but she has a son, she works, she does like boxing with those like personal coaches. She's just she just is like a young person. She would do sort of similar things and activities to what you would do, but at the same time she has a kid. So I think I'm really, really excited to see that next chapter for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see how we are as parents. And also just because, when you're a parent and you tell your kids to do or not do certain things, and because our generation was rebelling to the older generation, we're doing different things. So I'm wondering how that's going to look like. I think a lot of it is going to be our kids are going to be rebelling by being, you can see it with a lot of the younger kids as well, that they don't do social media, they don't drink, they don't do drugs, out of rebellion of the parents who are super connected and super wild.
Interesting, because like I sometimes do think about like how I want to raise, if I had a kid, how I'd want to raise a kid. I don't know, like my idea is like just give the kid nothing. Like give the kid nothing. And if he wants to get the Nintendo that his friend has, that would be a catalyst for him to figure out how to earn money. Because like if like I can't tell him to like go get a job. He needs a catalyst, and that catalyst comes from me giving him nothing and seeing his friends have it. But what if that just crushes the kid?
I think it's a balance between giving them things but also making them work for things. When I was a kid, my parents wanted to give me as much as they can. Like I had a lot of they sent me a lots of extracurriculars, which I think was really, really beneficial. But for example, I had my pocket money, and when I said that I want to do more, I wanted to become an Avon woman. I don't know what you know. It's like it's a pyramid scheme sort of thing, but it's one of the first ones. It's not too bad, but you would be selling to your friends. And I decided that I wanted more money at the age of 14, and I wanted to do Avon cosmetic sellings. And then we just lost our cleaning lady because she moved to another country. And then my mom said, look, if you really want to earn money, then why don't you do the house cleaning? And then you get the money that we would be paying to the cleaning lady. So that was an extra next to my pocket money. So I think you can do things like that. But yeah, you don't want to completely not give them anything.
And what I'm starting to enjoy more, I like these weird, I don't know how to categorize it, but these weird conversations. Like for example, if I was talking to someone, I'm like, hey, right now I'm really nervous talking to you. I guess it's just like sharing how you feel or sharing your thoughts. And then I don't know what it creates, this openness, this vulnerability. It creates like, okay, I'm more relatable. But this is something I've been really enjoying doing. And I've been able to get interesting reactions. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I enjoy that sometimes too. I think it's something that shouldn't be overdone. Over communication is something that I've been doing a lot lately, and it can be too much sometimes, but I do like saying things how they are sometimes.
Oh, another thing I've recently clicked, because I was like figuring out why I sometimes just get exhausted after, I don't know, hanging out with someone. And I think it's like, the obvious answer is like you're not being yourself. When you're not yourself, you're sort of playing this character, you get exhausted. But at the same time, it's like if someone's telling me a story about how it was unfair, how they didn't get a promotion, I'm going to be like, that sucks, like that's okay. But in my mind, I'm probably wanting to say like, dude, like, you need to work harder. Like life is not fair. Like I've been through things that are like, it's much, much tougher fucking doing what I'm doing and running my own business and having employees. Like stop being a bitch, like shut up. But maybe me not being able to say that because I want to be kind and empathetic is what is making me lose so much energy. I don't know.
I think probably the fact that you're introvert is what's making you lose energy. I think also just because you're paying a lot of attention to what people say, and that takes up a lot of brain power and then energy. But actually it's interesting that you just brought up a point about promotion and career, because that's another thing that when we started talking and we were talking about corporate, and and I was like, oh, there's a lot of things I actually learned. And that's one thing I wanted to share, because it's a big find that I've learned in the last year, maybe two, that I think they don't teach enough, is that you have to own your career. I don't know why it's not being talked about, but a lot of people, when you talk to them, they expect their manager to know, oh, I'm doing such a great job. They don't notice me, they don't promote me, but your promotion and your career is something you have to take ownership of. And it's not your manager's job to get you up to a promotion level. It's your job to go to your manager and say, these are my career goals. This is the direction I want to go to. How do I do it? What are the skills? What's next level for me? What are the options for stepping up? And what are the skills and deliverables that I have already? And what are the things that I still need to do? And what are the timelines on that? That's really, really big. And also just understanding the measurable goals around those things, because I used to manage a guy, and when I started managing him, he was like, I don't understand why they didn't promote me. I'm here, I'm working hard. I'm working until 8 every night. And then I was like, well, no one asked you to work until 8 every night. If you want to step into the next role, it's not about how much you work or how good you are at your current job. It's about how good are you going to be at that next job. You have to be strategic. So how do you demonstrate being strategic? If you're here until 8 every night and the manager that is deciding on your promotion is leaving at 5 every day, they have no idea that you're here trying to prove yourself.
I think maybe people don't, I don't know why people don't do it. If I was in the sort of corporate life, like I would talk to my manager and be like, hey, my goal is to sort of get to X. What do I need to do to get to X?
Yeah, people think that their manager will come to them and say, hey, this and this and this is what you need to do. But your manager doesn't know what you're trying to get to. And your manager is managing their own career. Another thing, I think the biggest, best thing you can do for yourself is ask for mentorship. Have as many mentors as you can, because those are the people who've done it. They got promoted. If you want to get to a place in a company, find the person who does the job that you want to do and ask them for mentorship.
That's a good tip.
Or a person who you would be working with when you get to what you want to do. So start building the relationship with them now.
What I've recently done is every week I send out like my calendar to my team saying, hey, please book in a time if you want to chat. I'm more than happy to listen to anything you want, whether there's any issues, any struggles, or you're not too sure about your future. And it was like pretty amazing, because all of a sudden people, like team members, were like booking these calls and I haven't talked to them in months. And then they're like sharing things like, hey, I feel stagnant. All right, let's build out a plan. And now they're completely reignited. I'm hearing people like, hey, like I want to put together like a Halloween Zoom sort of thing. Like, all right, cool. Yeah, do it. And it was like really cool what happened when I gave my team members the ability to speak their mind in a personal sort of one-on-one sort of setting. And I think, yes, ideally that's what companies should do. If you're an employee in the company that doesn't do that, you have to take charge of your career.
I think one thing that corporate lacks is feedback. People don't give feedback because they're trying to avoid conflict and they don't know how to give feedback. And one thing that I noticed, because I learned management at uni and feedback was so much something that we were pushing very hard. And we also had to ask for feedback. And I think as a manager, if you don't, I generally give feedback to my managers as well. And they've always been very grateful for it. And I think if you're a manager and you don't give constructive feedback, then it will be less likely that someone is going to be honest and transparent with you and give feedback. So I think one thing is give feedback and also ask for feedback. And the other thing is to also give positive feedback, because that reinforces the good habits and things.
And then Orsi, have you ever been in a situation where a manager felt insecure and felt like you were gunning for their job? Or
No, I had really good relationship with almost every one of my managers. I had really, really good managers. Very, very lucky with the people that I got to work with in that capacity. Because I learned how to give feedback, I don't deliver it in a offensive way. And I usually would place it in a, for example, if I was gonna give feedback to my manager, especially when it's the first time, I would be asking them, like, can I give you some feedback? Are you open to it? So that's already something that is a softer approach. Even though obviously no one's going to say no, but it's still a sense of control and respect. Like, do you want this?
that's super duper cool. Yeah, Orsi. I think that's everything on my plate. Any other things did you want to like talk about, Orsi? I was like pretty surprised. Like we're at like the 55-minute mark. Every time I thought we're out of topic, we jumped into another sort of whirlwind. And I think this was like a really solid episode. I really appreciate you for coming on. But any other things that you had on your mind?
Didn't have anything as such. I just kind of thought of those two things just because we have been talking about the corp life. As I said, keen to come on the podcast again with Dee, and then we can chat about where we are with the business. That's been a whirlwind of a year. There's a lot has happened in that space. We learned a lot. So yeah, keen to chat about that at some point. But that's a whole other hour in and in itself.
Most definitely. I definitely want to dig into that because we'll save it for when the time comes. But, I saw you did all this focus groups. So I'm curious about that, most definitely. But yeah, I really appreciate you, Orsi. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah.
Thank you for having me.
For your time. And then I really appreciate you doing this. Like I really enjoy these podcast settings because it's like I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm like catching up with you, but at the same time, I'm like learning things that I would not learn if we were just catching up because the podcast puts it in this weird setting where it's like okay for me to ask these different questions. So that's sort of why I enjoy doing these. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for your time too, and thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much, Orsi. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Peace.